I'm Julie Fei Fan Balzer, and today on Make It Artsy, we're shaking up your basic techniques, beginning with a new type of watercolor. So I'm using watercolor powder, which is essentially just the pigment part of the watercolor, and we're gonna activate it with our water. So we're making these journal covers, which are really cool, and they don't really look like watercolor, and that's because I've mixed them with a whole bunch of gel medium and modeling paste and stuff like that. But enough talk, let's get started. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is, this is a modeling paste, and this would be true if you're using gel medium as well. I'm just gonna take a bunch of it and put it right onto my palette like that. Then I can pick any color that I want it to be. So even though it's a white paste, I can turn it into a different color. So let's say I want it to be purple. So I can add just a little bit of watercolor powder, and then I can start to mix it around. And you can see that purple actually is made up of a little bit of blue, because purple actually is red and blue. And when you mix the powder into stuff, you kind of see how it separates out. So you get a really interesting and unique color. Now you can do your own color mixing. If that's not the purple you want, you can, let's say, add a little red into it to make it a little bit different. So you really can customize the color that you're getting. And also, normally watercolor is pretty transient. Like, it's gonna move when you put something on it. But when you mix it in with a gel or a modeling paste, it makes it a little more permanent. So it looks like frosting, but don't eat it. I'm gonna go ahead and take some mixed media board. And with this board, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a stencil, and I'm just gonna go ahead and scrape my custom colored modeling paste through it. You can see that this is very much like icing a cake. Now the question is, do you have to do the whole stencil? No, the stencil is not the boss of you. You do not have to do the whole stencil. If you want to, you can. But that's the thing, I think we all make art differently, and it's important to know the rules, but then be willing to break them so that you get the results that you want. So here we go. Whenever you stencil with modeling paste or something thicker, you get these nice crisp lines. Now, if you want, you can keep using this stencil. And in fact, let me just wipe off my palette knife here. And this time, we can use it a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and put some powdered watercolor right onto our substrate. I'm gonna use a couple different shades of green here. Tap, 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 and let that out. Then I am going to take a nice gel medium, and I'm gonna go ahead and dip in here. Notice I'm using the back of my palette knife. And then I'm gonna scrape through. Oh, how sexy is that? I love it. The color reveals itself in the gel medium. And I'm gonna try not to pull through too many times, although I can't help myself. I need to maybe go over here. Pull it off. And now I have this really cool beginning. So I am gonna take another stencil, and I have my dirty palette knife that has green in it, and I'm gonna go right into here with it, just like this. Even if it's mushy and messy, and see how I'm going off the edge? Totally awesome, because now you can see I have just a little more color. So we want to kind of get haphazard with this, which I know sounds crazy, but the more texture and interesting things you have on here, the better. I'm now going to use a super thick gel. And with this one, I'm going to use even a different technique. So I'm just trying to find what stencil I want. So I am going to do, for this one, I'm going to put the stencil down, and I'm gonna go into my super thick gel medium. You can see how thick that is. Then I'm gonna go ahead over my shape, and I have a dirty stencil, so it's actually transferring some of the color right like that. But then in addition, I'm gonna take my watercolor powders and just tap over what I have here, like so. And then I'm gonna go ahead and scrape a little bit. I missed some places over here. But basically that little watercolor powder dots, those are gonna be embedded in here. And essentially what's gonna happen is I'm gonna end up with what you can see right here, which is you almost get this kind of confetti look in something that's translucent, which I think is really cool. So to finish off our covers, you're gonna let all of this dry. Once it has dried, you're gonna end up with something that looks like this. If you want to highlight some of the stencil work a little bit more, one of the things that I like to do is take some white acrylic paint on a brayer and just bring it across the top. Can you see how that stenciled area just popped right out? I also like to go around the edge with a gold pen to really make it shine. When it comes to assembling the journal, what I've done is I have several signatures. Signatures are just groups of pages. I'm even using some security envelopes. And I'm gonna use a basic book binding stitch to stitch them together. Then all I do is stack my front cover and my back cover together. I want to wrap a piece of fabric or anything else right around the edge like that. Glue the inside piece, and then I will have a beautiful journal that looks like this. And you can see most of it's blank pages. There are a couple painted and stenciled pages in here. There's the spine, but this is an easy and fun way to express yourself on the outside of your journal.